All right. We're going to call the meeting for Akron City Council to order. And at this time, our clerk will read the roll.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer.
Aye.
Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal. Amobian. Somerville.
Aye.
All members are present except for Councilman Neal.
Okay, thank you so much. For the past couple of months, Akron City Council has been very intentional about bringing more diverse prayers when we open up our meetings. So Akron City Council members, each one has a month. So the month of October was my month. Next month will be Councilman Neal's. So again, instead of a traditional prayer this evening, I'm going to ask that we observe with a moment of silence in honor of the lives lost and severely injured in recent local, national, and international tragedies. Tonight we observe a moment of silence in honor of the 66-year-old Eva Burgess, who lost her life in the Timber Top tragedy. Paul Pelosi, who's recovering from injuries sustained during a home invasion attack. The 141 people in India's western state who lost their lives when a suspension bridge collapsed on Sunday. And 153 persons killed in an apparent crowd surge in Seoul, Korea at a popular nightclub on Saturday. Thank you so much. For those who voluntarily wish to do so, will you please stand as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance? And I'm going to ask if Councilman Kamer would lead us.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United
Of the United States of America,
and
to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The minutes from our previously held meeting have been provided. Are there any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Abstain.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The minutes passed 12-0 with one abstention.
Before you, you have the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Baylor.
Aye.
Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley.
Aye.
Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
The consent agenda passes 13-0.
We do have one item up for public hearing. Our clerk will read in item number 1.
Notice is hereby given that the following public hearing will be held by the Council of the City of Akron on Monday, October 31st, 2022, during the regular council meeting at 7 p.m. Resolution adopting the 2023 Capital Investment and Community Development Program.
Helen Tomic.
Good evening, Madam President and City Council members. Every year, the City Administration prepares a capital investment and community development program for City Council consideration. The budget specifies the types, locations, costs, and general descriptions of capital investments planned for implementation throughout the year. The Capital Investment and Community Development Program includes the following: enhancing and maintaining existing public infrastructure such as streets and sidewalk improvements, improvements to parks, improvements to community centers, finalizing plans for the reservoir and Perkins Pool and renovating those bathhouses, and ongoing partnership with Kaboom to addressing place space inequities. The capital budget also includes recommendations for the purchase of police vehicles, fire vehicles, and public service vehicles. Additionally, the purchase of a fire engine truck, debt service, and the East Exchange Complete Street project. Along with these mentioned items, we are also looking at recommendations for ongoing water and sewer system upgrades. The objective of the capital programs are to construct and rehabilitate facilities vital to City of Akron residents, encouraging private investment, thereby increasing the city's tax base, leveraging state, federal, and private funds wherever possible, and providing capital improvements to support the long-term growth of the city's land use plan. The 23 capital budget is approximately $360 million. This includes $105 million in local funds, $5.7 million in regional resources, $158 million in state funds, $80.4 million in federal government funds, and $10 million in private resources. OID and city staff conducted a detailed review of the budget earlier today at 4 o'clock. The budget focused on transportation. That's actually going to be deferred till next week. Parks and recreation, public facilities, housing, community development, economic development, and miscellaneous. Next week, Monday, November 7th, we will continue our review focusing on transportation, police and fire, along with water and super capital needs, and that will also be at 4 o'clock. With that, we open it up for public hearings. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. So we're going to go ahead and open up our public hearing. I'm going to ask all those wishing to speak on item number 1, if you'll please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Those wishing to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do.
I declare.
I do.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll start with some of the individuals who signed up, and then we'll kind of just go from there, okay? So Megan Lugo, is Megan here with us? Or is she online? Okay. James Quinn?
Yeah, hi. I'm James Quinn. I live in Ward 8. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak today. So I was going over the budget proposal, and I mean, possibly, I might have missed something, but it looked like there was some surprisingly small amount of money going to housing, specifically fair housing. I only saw like $200,000 going to fair housing. Throughout the past year or so, we've heard there's been lots and lots of complaints to City Council about housing in the city. Specifically like in the Wellwood Arlington and now Timber Top as well. And so I'm just really interested as to why housing seems to be left out of the budget, or at least it hasn't been included as much as every other point. I also had some brief questions. Does the wayfinding updates only affect the downtown area? Because I know for example, in the Wellwood Arlington, there are a lot of street signs for speed limits and stuff. And I was interested in if wayfinding would cover budgeting for speed limit signs, or if it's just specifically waypoints, this is where locations are, which again, this could also be very applicable in the actual apartment complexes, because those are pretty large and massive and hard to navigate. And then I also noticed something that was kind of interesting to me, that the city is spending about as much money sweeping camps as building houses. $50,000 less is being spent towards sweeping camps. Has the city explored any options? Because I know that not everybody who's houseless wants to live in a house. Some people are perfectly fine living outdoors. Has the city explored any options to cut down on how much we're spending sweeping camps? I think that money could be much better appropriated towards fair housing, for example, or more money towards building houses. $400,000 for Habitat for Humanity seems really small, but I mean there is a lot of empty property in Akron that can be repurposed. But yeah, that was really it. Thanks.
Thank you so much, James. So I know we have your email, so we're going to get answers to the questions that you asked, okay? Is Ken Brooks here in the audience with us? Ken Brooks? Okay. Then we'll kind of start with the others. Apostle Lett, and then you guys can just kind of come up from there, okay?
Good evening, everybody. On this agenda item, I would like some documentation, accountability, and some proof of money to poor people and black people and disabled people in this budget. When I go on, there's a saying that says the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west. Well, there's a whole lot of sun setting in the west, and the east side is totally neglected. And when I go on Copley Road, and when I go in that area where Saferstein and that area where they don't have internet and they don't have what they need in terms of a lot of different things, including maintenance of the buildings, I want some public documentation to be coming to these community meetings to find out what the people need, because this is not being fairly allocated. It's being given to rich white America still. And women are being neglected. Women are losing their children behind this budget that is not fair. Women, especially women of color, are losing everything behind these things. And more money is being spent on police militarization than it is on building these communities for black, brown, multiracial, poor, and other classes of people that are not white. And I want some accountability, and I want it to be provided to the community leaders, including the church, and I want it done yesterday, because there's no more just passing a piece of paper talking about what the money's supposed to do. I see what it's not doing, and I want it done. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person can come forward to the podium.
Hello, oh my gosh. Hello, my name is Fran Wilson. I'm a community organizer. Today, several citizens joined me in the pews and sat through some of our budget presentations today. I truly appreciate a lot of the questioning that happened today from the side of City Council and also the work from the budgeting and OID staff. This capital budget proposes some $360 million of investment into infrastructure, community and service programming, and neighborhood aid. 50% of the city's capital budget is proposed towards water and sewer projects, some of that mandated by federal decree. There will be a presentation next Monday at 4 p.m., and then public hearings will be at 1 p.m. next Monday and 7 p.m. at the typical City Council meeting. You can participate by going and emailing public comment at akronohio.gov and signing up there. After sitting through today's meeting, I still want to echo the one point that I brought before public hearing. Renters in Akron, particularly in private multifamily units in Akron, are facing a local housing crisis. Eviction rates are staggering. Out-of-state landlords are unchecked. Poor housing conditions have led to death and hospitalizations of too many, and new development projects that are supported by tax abatements are for luxury and not for low-income housing. This proposed budget item category for housing and community services was only for $11 million out of 360, 3% for housing. That's the lowest of the expenditure categories. This budget shows the city's priorities for this coming year. So my question is safe and affordable housing a priority for the city of Akron? After sitting through these meetings, I do want to highlight just a couple quick things that if we could put in the file for legislation on the agenda. The presentation document, the debt-related item list from state funding, the private funding list, the itemized list of spend on support for the unhoused. If we could put those into the filing for legislation so that the public could access those documents and any other compilation of data and documents that council receives, that would be very much appreciated. I also want to say that we had very few folks come out to give public comment. Probably the most that we've had in quite a while for a capital budget hearing. It's hard to come to this during the middle of the day. I hope that we can get to a point that we can start to give town halls for this, do more public education for this, because we should not only be participating for it, but we should be truly a part of the core process of our budgeting. And at the, at the core of this is a lot of our money, all of our money. So we should get as many people to the table as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much. The next person who wishes to speak may approach the podium.
Good evening. Today was my first day being part of the budget reading. After work, I was running, and I was lucky to be part of it and listening to what took place in there and everything that was said. And to my biggest surprise, in the budget reading, there was nothing allocated to the refugees and immigrant community. Yet our Akron is one of the largest community that's Summit County is welcoming refugees. I remember last week on Ward 2 meeting, the mayor said to me particularly that it's been 2 years that they've been trying to put in place a liaison person to help with the refugee community. And with the ongoing Afghan refugee crisis, Akron is set to open doors to the second largest number of refugees since 2002. And as in 2006, the city should work closely with the county as well as local non-profits to resettle new Akronites. So my question goes out still to see how best we can have allocation for fund to help these refugees. If we want to help them acclimate or integrate into the community, we should have fund allocated to them and also have people to go out and help them reach out to their local needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on item number 1?
Greetings. I am here to just discuss some of the things that I really felt as though should be brought to the attention. As a community advocate and just a person who is leading on the housing campaign in the city, it is truly disheartening that the housing and community service is the least amount of money that's being invested in. From last year, it has decreased from 6% to 4%, I believe. And there's an issue within the private multifamily housing. The investment that has been putting into housing is for those who are homeowners and for those who have the ability to own a home. The disparity that is in the city is that we don't have a lot of homeowners. We have more renters than homeowners. And in this capital budget, it is really going towards actual homeowners. For the investment to create new housing, we only have, I will quote that, we only are going to donate $400,000 when the I Promise Housing was a $15.5 million investment. The Stony Point investment was $9 million. We don't have enough money to create any type of affordable housing for the community. A lot of the issues that are happening in the city is within multifamily housing that are privatized. However, we were fighting to get more inspectors, yet the inspectors are going to inspect it to do what? We need those housing, those ability for those to be housed in a humane way. We continue to have all of these vacant houses. We continue to have out-of-state people invest in properties. We're not taking care of our residents. If we say we want to invest in our community and really progress our community to be the liberal, progressive town that you all say that you are, by investing only $11 million in housing, it definitely states otherwise. With all of the 7 different projects that you all are investing in, why is water and sewer the highest and then miscellaneous being the second highest? And within that miscellaneous, we're replacing vehicles that could possibly get pushed a little, we could stretch that. we can really invest some of that money, like with the vehicle replacement for the police of $800,000, we could put that into the community. With this water and sewer being the biggest investment of $180 million, there are water and sewer issues that are actively happening right now at the Erickson homes. The tenant president for the Erickson homes, she has to be relocated to a hotel for at least 2 weeks because it's flooded with feces in her apartment. And she has been fighting alongside me to bring the issues of housing to the forefront of City Council. So I'm just actively just bringing it to your attention how the priorities of these programs that are being invested in is not for the needs of the people. We're investing in parks more than we're investing into the community and the community projects and into housing. We want to invest in the community, into the people, so violence can go down. If we have more programming within public safety, violence will go down. There's nothing for the kids to do. There's nothing for young adults to do, as to why there is a lot of chaos and ruckus within the city. The fire capital, they're $1 million in debt, and y'all want to invest $11 million into constructing another fire station. We already in debt from fire station 2 and 4. So it's like a lot of this isn't making sense as far as just from a citizen who is actively putting my tax dollars to build this community up. I could move somewhere else. However, I choose to stay here and advocate on behalf of the residents. We're continuously investing in things that really won't activate the community. We're investing into the park, but not everyone has access into getting to these parks, or even the Firestone Stadium. We can't use that in the winter. Ohio is colder than it's warmer. So within any type of investment, we must look into something that the community will have access to 365 days of the year instead of just half of the year when it's warm. Also bringing into light is this Lock 3 vision plan of $5 million and a Summit Lake vision plan of $7 million. And it's just very interesting to me within the Summit Lake vision plan how our ARPA dollars of $3.5 million is being matched by a private donor. Who is this private person? And who's benefiting on this council by these private dollars? It's a lot of backdoor things that the public is not aware of that we must understand. All of this private money that's being moved, I want to know what's happening with it. Is this information going to be to the knowledge of the people? And will we be able to read it to understand it, to really identify our disdains about these decisions that you all are making? Because as a resident, I'm a young person trying to make a way in the world. However, y'all making it difficult for me. Y'all saying that y'all want to have jobs. NPR said this morning that it's 4% unemployment rate. Everybody got a job. We must identify what these jobs are paying us, because if they're not paying a livable wage, that's also stringing us along on the poverty politics. If we don't have access to healthy housing, if we don't have livable paying jobs, if we don't have access to opportunity or access to resources, poverty will continuously be prolonged. So if we want to be this liberal state, this progressive city, let us be the game changer and really make some changes to where we're setting an example for other cities across the state. Because Ohio is a swing state, we make things shake and move. However, what are we doing now? We are really the people who could really create change. We are the history makers. So either y'all can make this change now or later. However, history will speak for itself in the actions that y'all make today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Stephanie Baker. I'd like to thank the counselors this afternoon who brought up the eviction and houseless populations in the budgetary meetings. We are seeing a crisis for renters and low-income people across the country and locally. There's a crisis, and there's a dearth of housing options, and we need to see an increase in the housing budget and work to house people in a humane way. I'd also like to second the comments from this afternoon's committee meeting. We need to focus on sustainability when we're putting together this budget. The most sustainable way forward is to utilize what we already have. We are now a gateway community, and we should see this reflected in every section of the budget. I'd also like to ask, as Megan said this afternoon, is the budget equitable across the city, across all wards, across all neighborhoods? Please release the data that is being used to monitor these situations. We would love to see it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in the audience wishing to speak on item number 1? Seeing and hearing none, we will close our public hearing. Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Thanks.
We will continue with old business, planning and economic development.
Thank you, President Somerville. Time on 2 through and including 20.
Okay, time will be granted.
The report of the committee is favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules, I believe. Suspension of the rules, I'm not sure if we've had 2 substitutes, so.
Yes, you are past the third reading, so
Okay,
no need to
very good.
suspend
So we
the
don't
rules.
need to suspend. Then it's a favorable report.
Okay, very good. Did you have any further comment?
I sure do.
Councilman Fusco, okay.
Yeah, thanks. This was introduced July 8th, and we had a reiteration, a substitute come in September 30th, and then October 17th. This is, in fact, the short-term accommodations regulation, short-term rental, AKA short-term rental. This regulates, we have definitions that we're able to work off of, rules, an appeals process, penalties, and one thing we have to revisit is the parking piece, because as we know here in Akron, people like to park as close as they can to their accommodations. And I want to thank the administration. They've really done a good job in terms of discovering some best practices that are out there. And we have a company that's going to assist in terms of the accounting piece of it. And we've intentionally taken our time and done a lot of research on it. So I also want to thank Nancy Holland. I'm seeing her here. I believe it's pretty well understood that Highland Square is one of the largest areas in the city in terms of these type of accommodations. And so her input has been valued and appreciated. So with that, we're asking for approval this evening.
Thank you so much. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor. Aye. Connor. Freeman.
Aye.
Fusco.
Aye.
Holland.
Aye.
Kamer. Lombardo.
Aye.
McKittrick.
Aye.
Malik.
Aye.
Mosley. Neal.
Aye.
Amobian.
Aye.
Somerville.
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0.
Councilman Fusco?
Time on the balance of the agenda.
Time will be granted. We'll continue with old business rules. Councilman Freeman.
Item 1, refer.
Item number 1 will be referred. That concludes old business. We'll now move into new legislation.
Item number 1 is offered by Councilwoman Mosley and Councilwoman Amobian. Ordinance amending and enacting Title 13, Chapter 136, Offenses Against Justice and Administration, Article 4, Election Interference, Section 136.30, Definitions, 136.31, Election Interference, and 136.32, Mandatory Minimum for Harassment, Intimidation, or Abuse of an Election Official, to provide greater protection for election officials from harassment and intimidation, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman?
Yes, the committee's report is favorable. We're asking for suspension of the rules, and I would like to defer to Ms. Mosley for comments on this.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended. Councilwoman Mosley?
Thank you, Madam President. This ordinance will have a mandatory minimum for harassment, intimidation, or abuse of an election official. In recent years, election officials, election staff, and poll workers have faced increased threats and abuse and harassment. This ordinance will create a local election interference ordinance and establish a mandatory minimum. There's a HR 241 was introduced by Representative Tavia Golansky, which is similar legislation earlier this year, which the state legislator has yet to take action on. So today we're asking for its passage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal? Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 2, offered by President Somerville, Vice President Fusco, and President Pro Tem Freeman. Resolution celebrating Akron City Council's receipt of a Silver W3 Award for its website, acknowledging Triad and council staff for their work in creating and maintaining the website and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we're asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Madam President, I think we'd like to hear from you on this.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Again, this resolution, we're really excited. Akron City Council has received an award for our website. We were selected out of 5,000 agencies for the best website in terms of government. So we're really excited about that. We have put a lot of work into our City Council website, really trying to raise the bar on professionalism, making sure that it is truly a tool that our residents can use 24/7. And so again, we could not have done it without council staff, so big thank you to Sarah, a huge thank you to Dr. Joan Williams, who supervised this and put in all the hard work, and also to Triad. And so we want to thank also the company who gave us the award. So again, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick? Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal? Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 3, offered by Freeman, ordinance authorizing the mayor, without the formality of publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts with Dell Technologies Incorporated for the purchase of servers and storage equipment for the replacement and upgrade of the existing process control system at the water reclamation facility and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Freeman,
Committee's report's favorable, and we are asking for suspension of the rules.
are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
This will enable us to purchase from Dell Technologies some equipment, actually replacing very old equipment for use down at our water reclamation facility, and with that, we ask for its passage.
Thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick? Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal? Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 4, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the execution of a development agreement with Pure Charge Holdings No. 1 or its designee, providing for the acquisition, sale, and redevelopment of property at 250 North Howard Street, finding such property is not needed for any public use, and related findings, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will be referred.
Item number 5, offered by Fusco, ordinance authorizing the execution of a development agreement with Middlebury Housing LLC or its designee, providing for the acquisition, sale, and development of property at 23 Kent Street, finding such property is not needed for any public use, and related findings, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco,
Refer.
this item will also be referred.
Item number 6, offered by Fusco, Resolution approving and confirming the appointment by Mayor Horrigan of Floyd Easley and Kathy Stevens, and approving and confirming the reappointment of Scott Rowland, Greg Burke, and Renee Need to the vacant commercial or industrial building appeals board, and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Request of the committees for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Are there any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. Time is of the essence on this one. This is our VBR board that we like to call, reference the vacant buildings registration, and this is that board that handles this. This is the appointment of 2 new faces that we welcome, and with the reappointment of 3 others. So we would like to get this passed this evening so they can continue their good work.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco?
Aye.
Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This resolution passes 13-0. Item number 7, offered by Fusco. Ordinance amending and enacting Title 15, Chapter 154, vacant commercial or industrial building, Section 154.04, vacant commercial or industrial building appeals board, to update the language contained therein and declaring an emergency.
Councilman Fusco?
Thank you. The report of the committees for suspension of the rules with a favorable report.
Any objections to suspension of the rules? Seeing and hearing none, the rules have been suspended.
Yes, thank you. This is basically some house cleaning reference that our VBR board. A couple years ago, the Akron Area Board of Realtors combined with Cleveland, and now they're known as the Akron-Cleveland Association of Realtors. So this is basically just making sure that we're consistent. So we're asking for approval this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. The rules have been suspended. The committee's report is favorable. All in favor, roll call.
Baylor?
Aye.
Connor? Freeman?
Aye.
Fusco? Holland?
Aye.
Kamer? Lombardo?
Aye.
McKittrick?
Aye.
Malik?
Aye.
Mosley?
Aye.
Neal?
Aye.
Amobian?
Aye.
Somerville?
Aye.
This ordinance passes 13-0. Item number 8, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent, service director, or their designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the demolition and removal of the former steel treatment building at 655 South Broadway Street, Akron, Ohio 44311, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Thank you, Madam President. Committee's asking for time.
time will be granted.
Item number 9, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the demolition and removal of the B.F. Goodrich Power Plant at 538 South Main Street, Akron, Ohio 44311, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 10, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the purchasing agent, Director of Public Service, or their designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the demolition and removal of the Erie Island Elementary School building at 1534 Peckham Street, Akron, Ohio 44320, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Time, please.
time will be granted.
Item number 11, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service or his designee, after publicly advertising for bids, to enter into a contract or contracts for the construction of the Rubber Bowl redevelopment project and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Time.
time will be granted.
Item number 12, offered by Mosley. Ordinance authorizing the mayor or his designee to enter into a sponsorship agreement with the Appalachia, Ohio Alliance for the Darby Creek, Smith Lake, Poston Addition, Bison Hollow Phase 3, and Salt Creek projects, and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley,
Consent agenda, please.
this item will be placed on the consent agenda.
Item number 13, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Councilwoman Holland, Councilman Fusco, and Councilman Malik. Ordinance amending and/or enacting Title IX General Provisions, Chapter 93, Fire Prevention, Article 2, Definitions, Section 93.30, Definitions of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron, amending and/or enacting Title IX General Provisions, Chapter 93, Fire Prevention, Article 3, General Regulations, Section 93.51, Carbon Monoxide Detectors in new and existing residential structures, to require carbon monoxide detection devices in residential structures in the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley?
Time, please.
Time will be granted.
Item number 14, offered by Mayor Horrigan, Councilwoman Holland, Councilman Fusco, and Councilman Malik. Ordinance amending and/or enacting Title 15 Land Usage, Chapter 150 Environmental Health Housing Code, Section 150.01 Definitions, Section 150.08 Equipment and Facilities, and Section 150.13 Rooming Houses, Equipment and Facilities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Akron to require carbon monoxide detector devices in residential structures in the City of Akron and declaring an emergency.
Councilwoman Mosley?
Time.
Time will be granted. That concludes our new legislation for this evening. We'll now go to the portion of our meeting that we refer to as our public comment period. Going to ask all those wishing to participate, if you would please stand at this time so that you may be sworn in by a member of our law department.
Those wishing to speak, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give is the truth? If so, please respond by saying, I do. I declare. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So we're going to start with Stephanie Baker.
Hi, first I'd like to state that the applications for the Mayor's Police Oversight Board are due tonight, so if you're interested, please get those in. It has been 126 days since Jalen Walker was murdered at the hands of Akron police, and in response, the community came together to create a police oversight board. City's council's job is to listen to the community, not tell the community how to vote. The community has spoken, and the community wants a more robust police oversight board than that offered by the mayor. We do not want an oversight board completely peopled by the city council and the mayor's appointees. This resolution shows that some members of the city council are not listening. Thousands of people signed the petition to get this on the ballot, and now the city has the opportunity at the ballot box. If you have personal objections to the resolution, as was stated last week, do not vote for the resolution. You should not be using your position of power to tell others what to do with their ballot. Each piece of legislation put out by the government has the potential to go to court, and this was stated as a concern for issue 10, but as Councilperson Malik stated at the last week's rules meeting, the legislation was drafted to fit within the current FOP contract. The people of Akron want a better system, and we are using the ballot box to get it. Last week, Councilman Fusco, you said your anti-issue 10 resolution was on the behalf of the people, but you were just one person. We had over 6,000 signatures in support of the ballot measure. Leave it to a vote. That's democracy. I'd also like to speak about the narrative I've been hearing over the past couple of months from members of council that it's not fashionable to talk about civil service or that public servants are not respected by people in the community, implying that those speaking out at council are separate entities. The people coming out to council and speaking at these council meetings are the public and civil servants. We are the teachers, the nurses, the janitors, and the road workers, and we need help. We're making low wages, and the city is making itself unaffordable. Housing in Akron is unaffordable for many local workers. All the new developments being discussed are out of reach for many, even at $200,000, and the affordable rental properties like Timbertop are demonstrably unsafe. This anti-civil public worker narrative is being constructed because we are demanding police accountability. The police are separate from the rest of public employees. They're relatively high-earning jobs that are well protected from being prosecuted, even for murder. Public and civil servants demand accountability from the police too. We are paying attention. Finally, in the paper the other week, there was a proposal for demolishing the old Akron Beacon Journal building and putting in a pocket park and parking lot. A pocket park would be nice, but another parking lot in the city is absolutely absurd. Downtown Akron is already full of parking lots. The downtown area needs green space or a grocery or a pharmacy. People who live in downtown Akron do not have walkable options for these basic necessities. They already have access to thousands of parking spaces. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Samantha? Your pass? Okay. Rachel? Is Rachel here with us? Okay. Daniel? Is Daniel here with us? Reverend John Beatty?
Madam President and members of the council, I received recently a letter from Reverend Paul Brandeis Rauschenbusch. And for those of us who have been in seminary, Walter Rauschenbusch authored a phrase, the gospel, oh dear, senior moment, social gospel. Thank you. And this is some comments from this letter that I'd like to share. America is at a crossroads. One nation has never been perfect, and the promise of democracy has never been equally extended to every citizen. But for the first time in recent history, instead of advancing and strengthening our democracy, we're losing ground. From the rise of Christian nationalism to recent decisions handed down by a radical Supreme Court that demolish reproductive choice and church-state separation, to the systemic restriction of voting rights and the fallout from the January 6th insurrection, we are reminded every day of the urgency of Interfaith Alliance's mission. As the new president and CEO of Interfaith Alliance, I'm committed to making a real difference with your partnership. And it goes on to say that we're in deep trouble. It matters. Our vote matters. And we need to vote and use our brains and our hearts when we vote. And voting is going on right now. Please vote. And when you vote, I appeal to you to initiate a process where we can increase our citizen participation. I urge you to vote for issue 10. It is the citizens, commission. There will be people here that will speak against it. Some of them are my close friends, but I urge you to vote yes for issue 10. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Beatty. Harrington Hargrove.
Good evening, Council. My name is Harrington Hargrove. I live at 1008 Laurel Avenue, Akron, Ohio, 44307, Ward 3. And I'm standing before you in reference to the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Program. That program exists because of the misdeeds that's been done to our communities. And there is no limit to the Community Development Block Grant Entitlement Program versus to, we have the programs for $25,000 facade grant and stuff like that, but that is not going to elevate any community, and let alone a community that has been denied for 40 years. We need this council to give us ARPA dollars. We need this council to give us Community Development Block Grant Entitlement dollars. Then we can elevate ourselves. But what this council has been doing, it's not working. It hasn't worked in 40 years when it comes to the black community. I talk to people in Hood, they have programs and money that could turn schools into businesses and things in our community. And I talked to them, they said, this council has not even tapped into them, but the money is there. So all I'm saying is, council, you need to rethink how this money is being spent. The black community has been denied, and there's no doubt. So I'm saying, allocate money for us. $500 million plus you have in the budget and everything this year. And then you're gonna get maybe the same, as far as 400 the following year. So why can't you allocate money for us? All you have to do is allocate it. It doesn't mean it's spent, but if you allocate it, it's there. And that's what this council failed to do, allocate. But you do it for other projects, but when it comes to the black communities and what we need, you don't allocate. And so all I'm just saying is this is drawings of my building at 371 West Thornton Street. I'm going to create 4 businesses in that location, create 10 jobs, but this city don't think it's worth anything. And so this is what we go through. We have viable things for our community, but this council don't want to hear us. You won't let us participate in the development of our community. How can you come in and develop our community when you don't know nothing about it? We the people know. So I'm just asking, economic development and the black community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hargrove. Apostolate?
Truly we have all lived to see that God's ways are higher than ours, and we're living in some very critical times. Prior to coming here, I spoke at the county council meeting also, and this evening I wanted to talk to you about gun violence. And prior to, I'm going to read this to you because I wrote this to read, because the more you read, the more we all succeed. And until the slavery is abolished in the United States of America, we're going to keep having gun violence. The Thomas Corwin Law, the pro-slavery law, the Ghost Amendment inside the 13th Amendment promotes gun violence. Nobody needs a gun. Absolutely nobody needs a gun. We have a mouth that we can use for communication. The government has become destructive to the people. And we have a right as citizens to alter and or abolish it. And today I stand to declare that we are going to alter and or abolish this process of destruction that's coming from our government through gun violence. I'm going to read what I wrote. And this is my book, From Riches to Rags. I just did a book signing at the Akron Public Library on my birthday, October 22nd, of what happened when I reported abuse as a result of gun violence. My name is Reverend Pamela M. Pinckney Butts, an apostolate. I am a 2024 United States of America presidential candidate. My phone number for the Summit County and surrounding areas is 330-428-9191. I am here today to address the subject, gun violence. Gun violence was committed against my 4 children and me on Thursday, October 10, 2002, and it changed our lives forever. With my having a protection order in place that was supposed to protect us, it was violated also by the abuser and others. No one has been held accountable for doing this to us. As I come before this legislative body, I am calling on you to begin to draft legislation that promotes homes, not halfway houses. Please review protection order processes for we women of color and our children. I do not own a gun. I have no desire to do so. Gun violence is not merely the after sound or the after effect of the shots fired or the remnants of the bullets. It is also the ideas that are embraced through racism and idolatry. Guns have become an idol in this country, as well as other components that impact us every day. My children did not have access to guns and drugs in my care. On October 10, 2002, they disappeared in thin air because of gun violence and the silence of it. I come to you with alternative solutions to gun violence. Money and other resources used for manufacturing, sale, trade, and production of guns is not merely...
Apostle, I'm so sorry, but your time is up.
Okay.
Okay.
May I finish just the last part of this?
I'm so sorry, but if you want to, after the meeting, we can get copies and we'll make sure the council members get it, okay?
Well, I would like for the public to have access to this, and since I'm being stopped from speaking now, if anyone would like to have this information, I do have it, because it's not only environmental hazard to us, but it's a family hazard to our lives.
Thank
Write
you.
legislation
Thank you, Apostle Webb.
against gun violence.
Thank you. Reverend Dr. Joyce Penfield.
Good evening. For some of you who may not know me, I'm a supply clergy for the Episcopal Diocese of Ohio, a member of Our Savior Episcopal Church on Crosby Avenue, and one of the leaders of the Akron Interfaith Social Justice Group, an interracial, interfaith group of community leaders in Akron that was formed after the murder of George Floyd. I relocated here in Akron 3 years ago from Providence, Rhode Island, where I served as 16 years as the lead chaplain at the state prison. According to the 2021 figures, Providence is almost exactly the same size in population and diversity as Akron. Granted, the histories are very different, but I experienced there that it is possible to improve police-community relations and work together to build community police partnerships if there is trust. It became obvious to me in the last 2 years that in Akron we have a dire need for positive community police relationships, but that it takes all of us to do that. It takes accountability, it takes transparency, it takes an independent functioning body, it takes what we've created in Issue 10. Issue 10 came out of the City of Akron through the Racial Equity Task Force recommendations. They spent months, many of them, I've heard many stories of time spent to identify positive changes needed to move the needle of community police relationships in a positive direction. A Citizens Review Board was one of their major recommendations. It takes all of us. It takes the citizens, the wisdom of the task force to be listened to and honored, Akron City Council and its hard work, the mayor's office, and yes, the police. Our common goal should be to improve police-community relations through real change that can lead to partnerships that are mutual and respectful. Unfortunately, the reality is that we're beginning with very low trust between citizens and the police, and sometimes the citizens and the legislative branch, the council, and the executive branch, the mayor's office. That trust is sacredly needed to be built up. Getting citizens invested in what matches their voice and their lives is just one step toward building that trust. As I go door to door, talking with citizens about how they could make the community safer, what would work, is it only the police? I'm learning. Many have opinions, many are very thoughtful in offering their advice. Showing them how there is accountability within a police force is another step toward building that trust and getting them invested in coming along and being part of that. Following the advice of the task force is another. Providing an avenue for the voice of people to have some critical say over transparency and accountability in policing would be a gigantic step toward an action that shows respect for the voice of the people.
Reverend Penfield, I'm so sorry, but your time is up.
I strongly urge you to vote for Issue 10 and abstain or no to anything that speaks against it.
Thank you so much. George Johnson.
Good evening, Madam President, members of City Council. My name is George Johnson. I think many of you know who I am from my labor background. I have held many positions within the union throughout this city and the state of Ohio. I'm retired code compliance supervisor for the city of Akron, and I currently work for a law firm, Warner Mendenhall legal firm. I stand here in opposition in opposing Issue 10. It's a slippery slope. Warner Mendenhall and I, we have a reputation in this community for standing up for what we think is right. We looked at this issue together, him with the legal side, my union background, and understanding of how contracts work. This will affect the rights that unions have to protect their bargaining unit. This will cause the erosion of their bargaining unit. All unions have language in their contract to protect from the erosion of their bargaining unit. 4117, the state of Ohio labor law gives them that right. It also gives right to the administration to be able to administrate and manage their employees, to have a citizen review board designed the way this is written, taking away their rights to administrate and manage their employee won't hold up in court. Taking away the bargaining unit rights of a union not only is a slippery slope for their union, it also could affect their union someday and the other unions. Because once a precedent is set, if it holds up in court, it's dangerous. Unions have been under attack for this country for 40 years. We need to sit down and redo this. I hope it doesn't pass. I hope you guys do whatever you can to make sure it doesn't pass, and we hit the reset button. And once we hit the reset button, sit down with union leaders, police officers, community leaders, and members of this committee and come up with a way to hold people accountable that will not affect other folks in the long run. Also, I'd like to say, in ending, me and this man right here had a conversation a minute ago. We both disagree, but we had cordial conversation. And there was no yelling, no threatening. I hope that we can deal with this issue and other issues the same way that me and this man just did about an hour ago. Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, members of the City Council.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. We do have one individual online. Jan, can you hear us?
Yes, I believe I prefer to go by the nickname Jan. It's just short for Jan, which I'm happy to hear and I get for so long.
Okay, I apologize.
Okay. I would like to begin my time with rattling off very important names crucial to the killing of Jalen Walker. Matthew T. Ritzinger, Corey A. Siegfirth, Dylan J. Carmody, Joseph M. Philemon, Joshua S. Getz, Judd A. Bishop, Justin T. Trollick, and Katie L. Sweeney. Unless I am incorrect, these are the 8 officers involved in the killing of one Jalen Walker. And I am an ex-Catholic by birth. I am quite disappointed that the city of Akron continues to not hold its police department accountable. I am mostly citing the actions of the city council and the police department that have refused to release the 8 names of these killers. And furthermore, they are going after the issue that is created to allow for a citizens review board, either attempting to throw it out or to gut it. Issue 10 is a strong issue that has been put forth by the people of Akron, and they have fought for it. Let the people of Akron vote on issue 10. That is my saying on that sort of thing. And if you want to hold your police force accountable, you should welcome a citizens review board that is held accountable to the people. And I think it is rather despicable that the police have not gone after the 8 names that I have cited before and checked to see if they can be fired and put on trial. The death of Jalen Walker is terrible, and it is a crime. And Akron should hold its police accountable for those actions. I yield my time.
Okay. Thank you so much. That concludes our public comments for this evening. We're now going to move into committee assignments. Rules, Councilman Freeman.
2 p.m.
Public Safety, Councilman Kamer. Budget and Finance, Councilman Freeman.
3 p.m.
Parks and Rec, Councilman Lombardo.
1:45.
Planning and Economic Development, Councilman Fusco.
1.
Housing and Neighborhood Assistance, Councilman Fusco.
Subject to a call.
Public Service, Councilwoman Mosley.
2 p.m.
Health and Social Services, Councilwoman Amobian.
2:30.
Public Utilities and Green Committee, Councilman Freeman.
2:45.
Is there anything else coming before council at this time?
Motion to adjourn.
Before we do, Councilman Neal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Appreciate the comments that were shared today. In this chamber, one thing that has resonated is the word trust. It has resonated time and time again from our constituents in regards to not only the police department, but this legislative body and administration. About 3 weeks ago now, one of my colleagues, Councilman Lombardo, came to me out of concern. And his concern was about me bringing up the issue of the bomb threat. And he said, Russ, people are tired of you speaking about the bomb threat. Now, it's not just a bomb threat, but it's how this council engaged the community and dealt with the issue. It's the same way we deal with Mr. Hargrove's issue. We don't deal with it. We're at the end of October, and we haven't had any discussion. But that's not the part I'm really focusing on. Mr. Lombardo came to me with concern. Because he said, Russ, people are tired of it. And this is what concerns me. And I'm asking, if there was something I did that was out of place in raising an issue, then this body has a right to check me on it. But I went back and I looked at the tapes. I looked at the article. All I did is ask a question. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is this. Trust moves at the speed of relationships, and social change moves at the speed of the trust in those relationships. This city is not going to move forward if we can't have honest discussion. I look at what happened last week, Mr. Fusco. We're bringing in the legislation at the last minute. We talk about wanting to follow our rules, wanting to honor. If this body can't have the honest discussions about, as I'm not the only one who said it, the dysfunction that takes place in this body, we can't help move the needle forward with our police department. We can't help move the needle forward in these other areas. My colleague, when he came to me, I shared with him some issues that, again, have been brought before this body that still haven't been dealt with. One was colleagues have constituents have come to me in regards to the hiring and promotion practices. It was mentioned about unions. These folks don't have union representation. They don't feel comfortable with the process. So they come to us as their elected officials. We're still waiting. I'm still waiting on him to get those issues those answers because I wasn't able to get them. There was a slight issue. Employees that worked Lock 3. Tip jar was there. Tip jar full, empty. Tip jar full, empty. They came to me saying, hey, we never got any tips. 3 weeks ago, I don't think my colleague has still gotten an answer on the tip jars. Is that our business as elected officials? Yes, it is. It brought to this body about a public park being ran by a private organization that when people rent it, they have to pay that private organization, and no record of what kind of income comes into that park comes to this council. I'm bringing these up because if we can't deal with these issues as far as what we've been elected to do, how are we going to address the more serious issues that they're bringing up? But I appreciate my colleague coming to me, I guess, out of concern, because he didn't want to see me ostracized or chastised by my colleagues who were tired of hearing about the bomb threat. And again, it's more than the bomb threat. And we're a month in, we haven't heard it about how we're going to move forward to address that issue. It's about how we handled it. And so it's my hope that the issues that we brought up or the concerns that were alluded to about the problems that we have here in council, that we can take time to have that discussion so that we can heal ourselves and move forward, We've got a new administration that's definitely going to be here next year. This council can't take the old baggage that it's had in the past into that new year. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Neal. We do have a motion on the floor. Is there a second for adjournment? Or we can stay, or we can stay longer. It's up to you guys. Okay, if no objections, do you want to make a comment before we adjourn? Okay, I'm sorry. Councilman Fusco?
Yeah, thank you. This is where we're at. November, almost November 2022. We can't have a conversation. That resolution came in late. I didn't ask for a vote. I asked for discussion. Instead, it was met with all kinds of fury, I guess, for lack of a better term. Just wanted to have a discussion about the issue itself. Just wanted to discuss the issue itself, just have a civil discussion. But we do, and everyone in this, I'm addressing you, President, that's the way we're supposed to operate. What it amounts to is that we have had, and I can show this, a number of resolutions in this council, typically that says yes on an issue. But at times we said no on an issue via resolution. We've done that before here in this council. And we also have had a brief conversation with our president and our clerk will reveal how many things that come in late the same day. It happens often. That's why I asked for time. But again, it's you know, if we could just have conversations, just and talk about the issues themselves, and it's again, we've said this time and again, people on both sides of this issue, we do not discount those efforts. That takes a lot of work. Many of us has done this, and we'll find out in a week, and then we'll live with the results, and we'll move on. But what we have to do is maybe be kinder to one another, maybe be more respectful to one another, maybe listen whenever people talk, and do a better job of that. I'm committed to doing. Again, however, though, it's important that, and it's been said today, and we all want everyone to understand what they're voting on, and I think it's fair to have this debate on the streets and in council chambers in terms of what people are going to be asked to vote for. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilman Fusco. Okay, so thank you. So we have a motion on the floor for adjournment. If there are no objections, meeting adjourned.
This concludes the live broadcast of Akron City Council. Margot Somerville, President of Council, presiding.